Hello, I'm Jovan Johnson with the IMF Tracker. This week, local businesses offer discounts to public sector workers. Union says inflation could force changes to wage freeze agreement, and IMF resident representative highlights his other roles. These stories in a moment, but first, our question of the week. What's the primary surplus? Stay tuned, the answer comes up at the end of the program. Some members of Jamaica's business associations have agreed to offer discounts to public sector workers given the freeze on their salaries. Jamaica Chamber of Commerce President Francis Kennedy says the move is an extension of a program started by Megamart Wholesale Club, which introduced special discounts for public sector employees and pensioners in July. Head of Megamart, Gassan Azan, said the discount was being offered in recognition of the workers' commitment to the nation. The University College of the Caribbean is also offering a 20% discount on tuition fees to public sector employees pursuing graduate studies at the school. Jamaica's 4-year deal with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) called for public sector wage restraint over the first 2 years of the program. More than 80% of public sector workers have signed on to the wage restraint. Meanwhile, the Jamaica Civil Service Association says runaway price increases are forcing trade unions representing public sector workers to seek to negotiate the wage freeze. Head of the association, O'Neill Grant, says spiraling inflation, fueled by a rapidly devaluing currency, is likely to send more trade unions running back to the bargaining table with the government. He argues that when the agreement was signed on March 16, the Jamaican dollar was lurking at about 87 to $1. He said it has since leapt to $102 to $1. The wage freeze agreement is central to reducing the wage bill to 9% of gross domestic product by 2015-2016. Bert Van Selm says his role as IMF resident representative is not only for countries which have boring relationships with the fund. The key task of the IMF resident representative in Jamaica at this time is to ensure the existing 4-year lending arrangement is successful. However, Dr. Bert Van Selm says there are also resident representatives in countries such as Russia and China which have not borrowed from the fund in decades. He says for those countries, the focus is on surveillance activities. The post of resident representative in Jamaica was closed in 1997 and reopened with a standby loan agreement in May of 2010. And to end our program, the answer to this week's question. A primary surplus is what's left of earnings after all expenses except the interest on the national debt is taken out. And that's where we end our trek this week on the IMF Tracker. I'm Jovan Johnson.